Welcome to Detox Friday. Let me see if I can share this video um, and see what we can do. Um, but happy Friday, welcome. I just want to make sure that everybody that is in here is in here. Um, let's see. I don't know how this works. I don't know how this works, but I am live. I just want to make sure that everybody is here watching. Um, and I want to make sure that you get a chance to be with me. This is Detox Friday, right? And I decided to go live because sometimes I can get so caught up in editing and thinking about, okay, I need to edit, I need to do this, I need to do that, and just thinking about that, and it's like, no, record, go ahead and talk. And so I am in the midst of transition right now, and what I have been thinking about is how far God has brought me. And so, what I want to do today, faith walkers, because y'all are faith walkers with me, and I want to share my personal testimony of how I even first came here to Texas. It is a story, um, and it's something because God has brought me a long way. And sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, Lord, you have done so much for me. You've done so much. You have done just an awesome work in me. I want to share that with you. Okay? I want to share it with you. So let's go back. Because you know what? Today, and I've been thinking about this a lot. I've actually been in Texas since 2005. Y'all, that's 20 years. In August, I will complete 20 years in Texas. And as some of y'all know, some of y'all don't, um, I am from Seattle, Washington. And the Lord started dealing with me about moving to Texas in 2003. And in 2003, I remember I was going through, I was going into like to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and on my way back, I was like, "Oh my God, Tulsa, Oklahoma! I'm here." And then I had a layover in Dallas, and so at DFW, and I remember when I stepped into the airport, I was like, "Oh my God, hello home." I remember I said that out loud. And I know that came out of my spirit because I was not thinking about that. Who did I know in Dallas, Texas? I didn't know anybody. At that time, I, the people that I did know, I didn't know they lived here. And so I was like, oh my God, what am I about to do? What am I about to do? And so I am like, um, getting back home because I had never had that feeling before. Not like that. I wanted to move, but I had never had that feeling. So when I went to back home, I was like, let me look for some jobs in Texas. Let me look, all of that, and I started looking, and then um, I got stopped in my tracks because I was at a service and somebody said, "You're not to move anywhere, this and that." And I was like, "Okay, well, Lord, if I'm not supposed to move, then I'm not supposed to move." So I remember that was probably like 2003, 2004. So after 2003, I started like looking at all of the the things that were happening in my life, because my life basically got shut down. Like, as you can see right now, I'm in transition again. I'm around boxes, right? And so I'm thinking about this. So my life got shut down. And when I say my life got shut down, this is what I mean. I was sitting up at a job, and it was like, oh, I had a job opportunity. So I went in and I started talking about, talking to this lady. And this lady I used to work with, and she was like, hey, there's this job opportunity. There's a new school opening. And if some of y'all don't know, I am a licensed cosmetologist and also an instructor. And so there was a new school opening, and she gave me this envelope, and she was like, oh, you didn't get one? Because usually if you're licensed, they'll send everybody. Back in the day, they used to send everybody who was licensed in the area, they would send you like an invite to come and interview at this job or whatever. So she gave me this thing, and she was like, you didn't get it? I was like, no. And so me and her had a desk in the same area. And so after that day, I never saw her again. Okay. And so come to find out, over that weekend, she was murdered. This is a crazy story. But she was murdered, and I was like, what in the world? Oh my God. And so I went back and I was like, well, maybe, I know it's crazy, but I was like, maybe I need to apply for that job, because that was the last thing that we talked about before she died. Oh my God. And so I went and applied to the job. This is what I did. I went and applied to the job, and everything was going so good. And they had basically given me the job. And so I was planning on leaving this other job, and then I was going to the other job, and I had bought a condo, and bought property, and it was going really good. Everything was going good. And so I went and sat. I was just kind of going through, waiting on this job to come, call me back and whatever. And all of a sudden they were like, no, you don't have a job. No, you're not going to work here. And it was like, well, Lord, what in the world? I thought I had a word from you. And so I remember sitting in my condo. I sat in my condo on the floor, and I was like, okay, Lord, what is it? What do you want? What is it? This was probably at the end of 2004. Maybe it actually might have been at the beginning of 2005. And I was like, what do you want? What do you want? I sat on the floor in that place. And the Lord said, I told you, Texas. I want you to move to Texas. And so at that time, I was like, oh my God, okay, I'll move to Texas. Okay. So I started shutting everything down. And I was like, I was shutting everything down. I'd sold I put my condo on the market. And then I was like, I have all this furniture. And there was a man, my friends had told me about this man. He was a widower. He had a child. He had a little boy, and he had lost everything in a fire. And he went to their church, and they hooked me up with this guy, and they were like, he needs furniture. I knew I was moving, and so I invited him and his son over, and I said, pack everything that you can fit on your truck. And I remember the little boy, he was so excited. He was like, oh my God. Because I had like TVs, I had furniture, I had everything. Because I had my stuff. And so, excuse me, I'm trying to shift. But anyway, I had all of my stuff, and I gave everything that I could to this family that had lost everything for free. Just pick it up. And they were so blessed. They were so excited. And I was like, still trying to sell everything. I sold my condo, everything that couldn't fit on that man's truck. I gave to Salvation Army, and they came and got it. And I packed everything. And I remember I moved in with my brother and his then wife, and I stayed there for about a month. I got another job at Hertz Rental Car. What was I doing? Selling rental cars. Anyway, I got a job at Hertz Rental Car, and I worked there for a few months. The Lord told me, He said, I want you to move to Texas, and I want you to move to Texas by the end of August. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I didn't know what I was going to do. By then, my cousin had moved to Texas. And so I asked her if I could come stay with her. I went and stayed with my cousin. Um, and I got there probably by the end of August. And so within that time, do y'all remember Hurricane Katrina? Well, Hurricane Katrina happened probably about a week or two after I moved to Texas. I moved to Texas on, I believe I flew into Dallas on, I think it was August the 23rd. And so probably about 2 weeks later, Hurricane Katrina happened. And so there was a lot of people that kind of moved into Dallas at the same time that I did. Okay. There were a lot of people moving in. But I remember moving, and right before I moved, I just had suitcases because the Lord told me to leave my car. What in the world? Y'all, I'm trying to follow the Lord, and He is telling me stuff that I think is crazy. I'm like, what? He said, leave your car. And so I left my car. This is very an integral part of the story. I have to tell you this. I had to leave my car. So I flew into Texas. And I remember my sister, before I left, she was like, are you sure you're supposed to move? I remember she was crying. Are you sure you're supposed to move? Are you sure the Lord told you? I said, the Lord told me to move. And so I moved. I jumped out on faith. I moved here without a job, without a car. Listen, y'all, does that sound crazy to y'all? Because it sounds crazy to me. It sounds crazy to me. Yeah, it sounds crazy to me, right? Even right now. I moved to Texas without a job. I left my car in Washington and I moved here, and it was like the Lord favored me all the way through. My luggage, I had like two big suitcases. My luggage was over 50 pounds. And the people was just pushing me through. Oh, that's okay. You don't, oh no, you don't owe any extra money. Here. I got my luggage on, two pieces of luggage. They was probably both over 50 pounds. And the Lord just blessed me to get to Texas. I get to Texas, and I I probably lived with people for about 4 months. I lived with my cousin for about 5 days. And then after that, I moved in with somebody that I did happen to know from Washington. She had come and lived there for a little while, and I lived with her. She opened up her house to me. And so I ended up moving. I moved to my own place by December. So I moved here in August. By December, I went and had my own apartment. All I had was I had a few dishes that somebody had given me, and I had an air mattress, and I had a book. Because I had a job by then. I got a job about 2.5 weeks after I moved here. Listen, the Lord the Lord blessed me. About 2.5 weeks after I moved here, I got a job. I moved into my own place. And I must say this. I didn't have a car, but my auntie, God rest her soul, because she's gone now. My auntie said to me, she said, until I will pay for a rental car for you while you are there until you get a job. And so or till you get your first paycheck. So she paid for my rental car. And when I got my first paycheck, I was on my own. And so my auntie helped me, right? Probably for the first month that I was there, here. And so I got my own place. I'm telling somebody at work, all I have is my air mattress, and I go home every day and I read this book. I got a really big novel that I read, and I just read it every night, just to entertain myself, because I didn't know too many people, and so I just stayed in there and I just would read until I went to sleep, right? And so I was telling this lady at work, she felt sorry for me. She did. She was like, I thought that was so sad. She said, I was telling my husband about it. And she said, um, me and him have all of this stuff in our garage. And we just want to give it to you. It was like a bed, it was dishes, it was everything. My I mean, she basically gave me stuff. I think I had a computer, just everything, anything that I needed that they had. Pots, pans, dishes, glass. I don't even remember everything that was there. But they loaded up while we were at work. Her husband loaded up a truck and followed me home after work. Y'all, I'm just telling you what God will do. I'm telling you what God will do. So they loaded up the car and took me. I showed them where I live, and they carried that stuff. We carried it up to my apartment on the third floor. This lady didn't know me. I don't even remember her name. She was a white lady, and she had some issues of her own, but she said to me, this is what we do for those who are of the household of faith, because she knew I was a woman of faith. And so was she. And she said, this is what we do for those who are of the household of faith. I'm telling you, I was like, oh my God. I'm telling you, God blessed me. God blessed me. Does that sound crazy to you? But that is God. And so, um, what I wanted to go back to, even um, me moving. Let me just say this one thing. There was some stuff, like when I was living in Washington, there was stuff happening at church too, where I was watching people be elevated and I wasn't getting elevated. And so I was just like, what is this? When you feel like a push and stuff is not working and stuff is not moving, you need to sit down and ask God, okay, what do you want from me? Because that's what I had to do. I had to stop and say, God, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? What do you want me to do? So I want to say this. My car. You guys remember that car I left in Washington? Well, in Texas, it's especially in DFW, it's hard to have a be here without a car. Well, it was then. Now we got Uber, honey. I wish they had Uber when I moved. I didn't have no Uber. I didn't have no GPS. I didn't none of that. And so I was like, I need a car. I need my car. So my mom and dad pulled my car up here. They pulled it from Washington State, down here to Texas. They pulled my car. That was probably 2006. Okay, probably the next year, 2006. Pulled my car down here, y'all. And I was so happy to have my car. I was like, oh my God, my car is here. I had um a red Oldsmobile Alero. It was a four-door. It was cute. Had a spoiler on the back. Y'all know what spoilers are. All right, it had a spoiler on the back. It was cute. And leather seats, leather interior. I was so happy for my car. I saw my car and I was like, yay, it's here. Child, 5 days after my car got here, at, I was going to work, and I was sitting waiting for oncoming traffic. And a big expedition, a Ford expedition, came down the hill and rear-ended me and totaled my car 5 days after it got here. 5 days. You remember what the Lord told me? Okay. All right, listen to him. Listen to him. Okay. So 5 days after, and I remember my mom and dad were still here. And so I had to be rushed to the hospital and all that. Thank God I was okay. I was okay. I have some damage to my back and everything. But the Lord did not want that car here in Texas. He for some reason, right? And so I'm just letting you know that God kept me. God has kept me. Let me see. Also, oh, there's a big part to this story. I had to write it down because it's so much. Probably so I moved here in August. In September, and I'm sorry for jumping around, but in September, I remember my friend at the time had told me, she was like, hey, there's this man that is in revival at this church. I'm new here, so I don't really know. I don't know things, right? I don't know people. But the thing was is that he was related to I don't know if any of you watching me remember the group Guy, okay? With like Aaron Hall and those people. They were like, he's Aaron Hall's brother, and his name is Todd Hall, right? I'm like, I had never heard of him. I didn't know who he was. He was running a revival. They were like, he can sing, he can preach, all of that. So I go to this revival. Now, what I didn't say, what I haven't said all this time is that before I moved to Texas, I kept getting sick. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I kept getting sick. I was like, oh my God, I would get ear infections and I was dizzy. And I remember I kept getting like these cold sores, right? And they kept coming, and they would go, and then I would have another one the next week, and then they would go, and I would have another one the next week. And my periods were like irregular. And I could be, back then I used to work out really, really hard. And so I would be working out and I would feel cramps in my uterus, and then I would just start bleeding as I'm running, right? As I'm running or working out or whatever. And I'm like, oh, my period started. But it wasn't that. It was just that I don't know, they were irregular. Okay, I want to say that first. I remember, and I want to say this right now. I remember being so sick one time in my condo in Seattle, Renton, Washington, that I was crawling on the floor, and I was like feeling like I wanted to throw up because I had ear infections, so it would affect my equilibrium. So I had vertigo really bad, and I remember the room was spinning. The room was spinning, and I remember crawling on the floor through the hallway of my condo. And I crawled all the way into my kitchen and laid on the floor because it was cold and it felt good. I think I might have fallen asleep there. I don't even know if I've told anybody that really knows me about this. Not really, because I would just get sick. And at the time, I didn't have any health insurance or anything like that. So I would just go and they would treat the symptoms and all of that. And I would be okay. And then I would, whatever. So I moved to Texas. I go to this revival with Prophet Todd Hall. And if you don't know who he is, some people I don't know what you think of him, but look him up because he's still preaching. So I went to a revival with Prophet Todd Hall, and I had never seen him, and I was like, "Oh my God, Aaron Hall's brother, what?" And so I'm in this revival, and I remember he speaks a word, and he said, "There's a woman in this room," and he said, "Your time of death is set for next year, April. This is what he said. He said, you have a blood disease and you don't even know it. And he said, I am going to have the bishop lay hands on you. When I point you out, I want you to come up here. And so everybody, we're just in church and he points at me. Y'all, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. He points at me and I go up there and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my, that freaked me out. That freaked me out. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And so the bishop lays hands on me. And if you know anything about Todd Hall, if you've ever looked at him, he doesn't lay hands on a lot of people. But he had the bishop lay hands on me. I was at a church called Chosen Vessel. Actually, Marvin Sapp is the pastor of that church now. And at the time he wasn't. But I was at Chosen Vessel. I go up there, the bishop lays hands on me. And from that day to this, I have never had any of the problems. No irregular periods. All of the stuff that was going on in my body stopped. Now, I want to say this. Had I not listened to the Lord as far as the timing of the Lord in moving here at the time that he said, now this is a faith walk, but at the time that he said, and gotten there for that revival, for the man of God to lay hands on me. Listen, I know God could have done it another way, but God had something special for me right here in Texas. He had something special for me right here in Texas. And I'm telling you that I got healed. I got healed. I got healed. This is why I know that when God speaks and he says something, he says, do this at this time, just like he told me to get on this live. He told me to get on the live, do this at this time, do this, do that I listen. I'm listening to God. I'm listening to God. Although transition feels uncomfortable, if God is telling you to do something, do it and do it quickly. There are some things that God is speaking to some of you that I am talking to, and you need to do what he said. Whatever he said, no matter how hard it seems, do what he said. Walk by faith and not by sight. And I want you to know that I'm encouraging my own self today. I am encouraging my own self because God has never let me be in the dark. He's never left me alone. He's always taken care of me. I remember not having money when I first moved here to pay my full rent. And I'm talking to a friend of mine. And she was like, girl, how much you need? I wasn't talking to her, asking her for nothing. She just was like, how much you need? I was like, $300. It was like, say less. What's your account? Let me get it to you. I'm just telling you that God will take care of you. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about anything. Because if you follow him and you walk in his footsteps and do what he says to do, he's going to take care of you. Listen, it's been almost 30 minutes. I don't know who's on here with me, but thank you so much for watching. And God bless you. Keep walking by faith.